What's going on? It's another edition of Flobo. Saw it on Netflix. You know, this is the show we go in the deep dives of the Netflix archives to uncover some hidden gems, some new releases, and more. And for a lot of people on planet Earth, that's where I'm from. Are you from over there? This is your slice of Flobo. That's right, me. This show goes international. I want to give a big shout out to those living in the British Virgin Islands. You guys made my podcast one of the more popular podcasts over the last 2 weeks. I appreciate each and every single one of you. And if you're like, man, how can we see you or how can we hear you? Either or. The show airs on YouTube. That's the visual version. So if you're watching right now, you're probably watching me on YouTube or, excuse me, or on the podcast side, wherever you listen to your podcast, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio. Your boy is all over the place. Now, we do a lot of TV shows, do a lot of foreign films, but this one here, it was actually in English. This is called Against the Ice, and it was recommended to me by the algorithm. I guess they decided, hey, man, you like movies like this, and they came in my email. It was a brand new release, and usually I don't do new releases because I know everyone has their own fresh thoughts about it, their fresh takes about it, and they kind of go in their own way. I want to really have the show focus on hidden gems, but hey, if Netflix said I enjoy it, I will. So, Against the Ice features Nikolaj Coster-Waldau from Game of Thrones, more famously Jaime Lannister himself. But the reason why I'm a big fan of Nikolaj is from a show way back in 2008, which is kind of ironic. You'll see why in a second. It was on Fox, where he played a man that was essentially immortal, where he was cured to being immortal or sentenced to being immortal until he found his true love. And the show was called New Amsterdam. Now, I with an N, EW. Now, I love that show. It only lasted 8 episodes. I still think it should been renewed. My company, it's called New Amsterdam Entertainment. They're not related. It wasn't inspired by it, but I thought that was pretty funny how a show I loved and a brand I run features an actor who's in this one, and it's kind of fun. You know, it's kind of fun to see Nikolaj in a whole different thing, a whole different vibe. The log line officially for Against the Ice is in 1909. 2 explorers fight to survive after they're left behind while on a Denmark expedition in ice-covered Greenland. Okay, so it's a survival film out there in the frozen tundra of Greenland, which, newsflash, it's pretty cold, man. There are basically exposed to the elements, right? You have this captain and a subordinate team trying to traverse the elements in order to discover the shape of their terrain. Try not to get into spoilers. I think one of the things a lot of the commenters who watch these shows goes, hey man, you spoil everything. I'll try not to spoil everything. Definitely, if you're familiar with like movies like The Remnant, you get the idea, right? It's cold, it's the elements, it's trying to survive, trying to maintain your own sanity when all hope is lost. The majority of the film is done by 2 characters, which I thought was pretty cool. You know what I mean? Having like those actor pieces. It reminds me of a film, kind of a different genre, Faster. The one with The Rock and Carl Gugino and Billy Bob Thornton. And when they interviewed Billy Bob about why he decided to do that role, he said there are not a lot of good roles that just allow you to be an actor, good or bad, than these smaller budget ones. And this film does seem kind of smaller budget. There are patches of CGI used, perhaps clumsily, in the film. There is an appearance of like some of the wild animals. You could tell those are CGI in some places. And you can tell that it's kind of like a lower budget thing, but it doesn't really detract from the whole idea of this film. So the main relationship is between Ignar, which is played by Nikolaj Coster-Waldau, and Ivar, which is played by Joe Cole, captain and subordinate, how they are going through the elements. The thing is, to me, it's all about the pacing. It was a weird vibe because I felt the first 10 minutes was kind of rushed to get them out there on their expedition in the cold and they show you how many days are out there: 50 days, 140 days, 300 days, and it kind of ends pretty quickly. They are out there dying, going crazy, going nuts, and at the end, it's like, and this is your ending. Ta-da! But in the middle, it kind of is a slog, man. It's an hour and 45 minutes. It's not to the point where you're like, oh, I'd rather be doing something else. But this is definitely kind of passive, slow burn. And I mean this with respect. I don't never trash a movie on the show. My thing is, who's this movie for? This is totally a dad movie. This is a movie your dad will get from the Blockbuster Hollywood Video, take off his slippers, get in the recliner, turn it on, and fall asleep to on a Friday night. It's a kind of film that I think would have benefited if it was on the big screen, because you have a bigger sense of the expanse, of the nothingness, of the wilderness. But because it is in Netflix, and I have a pretty decent setup in my place, because if it's your TV or your laptop or your tablet or your phone or your watch, I don't know if watches play movies now, it does feel kind of small. It does feel kind of sound stagey. I'm not sure if they filmed it on the elements outside or not, but it does have that feel like you're on a set. And I think it's just because of the size of the screen that we are. Like, you ever go to like a Best Buy and you see their 8K footage of nature, you go, whoa, we should be feeling that here. Greenland is a beautiful place. And I think that was the intent on the page. But as it was, it kind of felt like they were on a moon rock planet or a frozen planet. It didn't really quite feel like this thing to be tamed. It just felt like a backdrop for everyone to do the acting. It is a bit challenging in parts. They had a team of sled dogs to help them out, and for one reason or another, some dogs had to get put down. That's a bit of a trigger warning for those people who can't stand it. And of course, there's some gruesome things with the elements, cold and frostbite, and all of that. But that was essentially my biggest issues. It was the pacing. Top and tails are quick, almost rush. The middle hour is kind of like, okay, are we done? No, we're not done. We're having this thing. I did feel like some of the CGI was wobbly in parts, but hey, any chance for a film to have actors act their tail off and to carry a film with just two characters and some animals, to me, is achievement in itself. So let's look at the ratings here. IMDb gives it a 6.5 out of 10, which tends to be usually the conservative one, but it's a higher rating than Rotten Tomatoes gave it at 52%. And so I'm kind of in the middle. If I had to choose, I would say 6.0 would be my score. Why? Because it's higher than 5. It's worth a viewing. It's not bad. It's not something you will look at your watch plenty of times. Not something that you wouldn't recommend to anybody. But at the same time, it's such a slow burn that it would be kind of awkward. I would probably recommend to my friends. I'd probably call my dad up and go, "Hey, Dad, you'll probably love this wilderness movie. You like those nature shows on Discovery or Animal Planet? You probably will love this, and you could probably imagine yourself in this adventure." Kind of that wish fulfillment kind of thing. So I recommend it, but to a very specific audience in my circle. That's why I give it above a 5. But there's nothing there that would say it's a must view. So I would say add it to your list, add it to your queue. A lot of times when it comes to movies I don't review for this show, I say 25-minute test. You have to give me 25 minutes for me to be on board with the characters and the adventure and the premise. If not, I usually discard it, because even though I'm from a time and place where movies were rare and you wanted to consume whatever you got, there's just too much content around to have you go and slog through something you don't pretty much like. And so that's why I say it held my attention. I like the premise, but not to the point for me to rave about it. That is it for me on this edition of Flobo Saw on Netflix. We just did Against the Ice, available now on Netflix. Came out this year, 2022 of this recording. Go check it out. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If there's something you're listening to or something you're watching and you want me to cover, please let me know, because I'll be more than happy to go through it on this edition of Flobo Saw on Netflix. And before I get out of here, if you want to know how I feel about stand-up comedy specials, as I am a comedian myself, not just a film school graduate, not still a master's degree holder in film editing, make sure you check out the bonus episode of the show, available exclusively on Patreon. Patreon.com/FloboBoys. we call it the Boisterous Crew because we all love puns, right? To get bonus episodes every month. But until that time, this is Flobo on Netflix.